Hello my dear friends and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara and today we're going to be looking at Mercury in the 11th house. So this video is for you if you do have this placement. If you're a cross watcher, welcome as well. This is going to be in Western tropical astrology. What we're going to be doing is looking at what Mercury means, what the 11th house means, and then putting it all together. So Mercury is the planet of communication. It's all about your intellect and it's all about how you communicate what you are thinking. It can also deal with siblings, and it can also deal with things like short distance travel and even technology, because technology is a means of communication for us as well. The 11th house is ruled by the sign of Aquarius and by Uranus, and in ancient astrology it used to be ruled by Saturn. So very, very interesting combination here, because Aquarius, the 11th house energy, is very much ahead of their time. That's the whole thing to understand here with Mercury in the 11th. Aquarius, the 11th house, is going to be very much ahead of their time. You guys are going to be psychic. You guys are going to have innovative ideas. Now, the thing is with Aquarius, a lot of the time they are more so leaning in the direction of technology and innovation and science. So you guys are going to be psychic in that way, in that realm. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's just going to be science and technology. Sometimes personally, I find the 11th house or Aquarius to deal with the fashion industry as well, because they're very much futuristic. When you look at them, they kind of look like ET sometimes in terms of their looks. So that's the whole thing here. When you have Mercury in the 11th, you're going to be very much ahead of your time in terms of your thoughts, in terms of even how you speak. Sometimes maybe when you're younger, you might feel like you're not heard, or you might feel like people don't understand what you're saying because of the fact that, again, it's ahead of your time. So with all Aquarius 11th house energy, what my suggestion for you guys always is to start where the collective is at and then bring them up to your level. So find a way to communicate your message in a way that the collective currently is going to understand. So maybe it's going to be certain terms that people are using. Maybe it's going to be certain expressions, like these types of things. Because again, it can really quickly go over people's heads. And then you guys might kind of fall into the energy where you're like, well, what's the point of talking about this? What's the point of saying this? I don't want to waste my energy. Because you guys might get frustrated where it's like, you feel like you're speaking to a wall. That's really what that is, because people aren't understanding you. That's the thing. It's just you guys are ahead of your time. That's the thing. You guys are going to have ideas that are ahead of your time. You guys might even notice that things that are like trending now, you guys did years ago. And it can be simple things. It can be like fashion trends. It could be things like, I don't know, a habit you guys have, these types of things. And it's like, you know, you guys thought about that beforehand. So my biggest suggestion for this particular placement is to write down your ideas, because they might come in handy in the future. And that's the thing, ideas are always floating around, but you guys have that open crown chakra is really what's important to understand here. You guys just get those ideas. And keep in mind, psychic energy isn't just doing readings for people. Anytime you get an idea of any sort, you are using your psychic energy, you're using your creative energy. So that's the thing with the 11th house. You guys are just creative in that way, and you guys want to be known for your mind. Now, a huge positive thing with this particular placement is because it does deal with the internet. The internet is a form of communication and it does connect us together, the 11th house in particular. For you guys might be interested in doing things like this, videos on the internet where you're sharing your idea. It's so amazing the time that we're living in, because it's like a lot of people are able to live their purposes through the internet, because again, you're able to connect with people internationally. And it's like, you know, maybe in your local town, maybe you grew up in a small town or an area where there's people who don't really understand you. And then you come on here and it's like, you're able to express your ideas, you're able to communicate your ideas, and you're able to create that community. Because a lot of the time, the 11th house also does deal with large groups of people, right? You guys are here to propel the collective forward with your ideas. That's the thing. You guys just have to find a way to communicate them. People are going to understand what you're saying. And like I mentioned, even with the internet, you guys can have a lot of luck on the internet, because again, it opens up, you know, the possibilities of the different types of people that can find you guys. That's important to understand when you have this placement. Always communicate your ideas. And another thing also, when you have this placement, it's like you guys don't like engaging in small talk. You guys basically want to connect with people where it's like, okay, let's talk about ideas. What's your idea on this? How can we propel the collective forward? You guys are always going to be very friendly, and it's all about connecting people through your ideas, because the 11th house does deal with large groups of people. It deals with things like networking, going to networking events. I mean, also it can be very much activism as well, you know, because it does deal with humanitarianism and it does deal with philanthropy. So you guys can, again, have these ideas for the future where it's like, hey, I don't like how this works. Hey, I don't like, you know, how that is. I don't like the way that we're doing this right now. And I really do see psychic like someone who's in front of a stage and just like screaming into a microphone, like basically like motivating other people and creating some sort of movement. That could be very much something that happens as well. It doesn't necessarily just have to be over the internet. I'm just kind of giving you guys that example because it's a very quick way to access an abundance of people is through the internet, but it can also be very much in your day-to-day where it's like, again, you're doing it on the street, you're doing a protest, you're protesting, I don't know, veganism and like people not wearing fur or whatever it is. You know, there's so many different like futuristic ideas that people who have this placement do have, but a lot of the time you're going to find yourselves in situations where you are ahead of people, not in terms of like hierarchy, but in terms of like, again, you are communicating something to people. Now, on the topic of hierarchy, because the 11th house does deal with hierarchy in one way, shape, or form, keep in mind, we come out of the 10th house Capricorn energy into the 11th house. So that energy is there. You guys are carrying that energy within you. You guys can find yourselves in hierarchical positions within society, maybe working with some people who are in higher social status and higher social class. Again, communicating your ideas. Very much Nikola Tesla energy is really what I'm picking up on. I always get very surprised that he doesn't have a lot of Aquarius energy in his natal chart, but who knows, maybe he had a lot of 11th house. Maybe we don't actually know his time of birth, but that's really the energy here. It's that type of mind. You know, you're ahead of your time. You have all these great ideas. You want to create something. It doesn't necessarily just have to be inventions, even though it can be, because again, technology propels us forward. It can be things like apps. It can be things like, I don't know, so many different things. You guys know, you guys are the ones with all the ideas. So that's really what it is, okay? You guys are here to basically propel the collective forward with your ideas. Keep in mind, important to constantly communicate these ideas. And if you guys have an idea that is communicated and it doesn't take off, that's fine. Save it for another time. That's really important to understand, because it's like, usually you guys are very much ahead of your time. They used to say that Aquarius is 10 to 15 years ahead of their time in terms of their intelligence, in terms of their ideas. I want to say it's shorter span now, just because again, frequency of planet is higher. Things are moving faster, so that, you know, 10 to 15 years is maybe shorter now. Maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 2 years, but whatever. You guys are always ahead of the crowd. You guys are always ahead of the game. You guys always have these ideas. And again, it can be the smallest things. Like sometimes, you know, we need like the simplest solution to things. Like people, for example, who have a pop socket in their phone, right? It's a simple solution for a problem that was already there. And you guys are going to basically be these types of people who are able to, again, have these ideas. It just comes naturally to you, is really what that is, because it's a download, you know? It's a download, you get that information and it comes naturally to you. So important to write it down. And again, you guys are going to have an abundance of ideas. Also important not to get stuck in your heads. All of the air houses could get stuck in their heads, you know, where it's like a lot of mental energy, you have a lot of ideas and it's like nothing's happening. So again, important to just write it out, get it out of your system. It's there. And again, you can save it for a rainy day. You know what I mean? You can save it and, you know, pull it out at the time where it's like, it's going to be handy, it's going to be useful. But again, biggest suggestion I do have for this placement is to basically figure out what it is your message is, what it is that you guys are trying to get across, what it is that you guys are trying to communicate, and find a way to communicate this for people to actually understand what it is that you guys are saying, because it's like you guys are super intelligent. All the air houses are, you know, but that's the thing, you guys are super intelligent, very friendly even. Like you guys are always going to want to communicate and connect with people. It's just you guys might have this internal energy where it's like, oh, I feel like I'm not being heard, or I feel like I'm not being understood, or I feel like my idea is not taking off. But that's the thing, you got to start where the collective is, unfortunately, and then bring them up to your level. Or in general, like continue doing what it is that you're doing. Like again, going back to the Nikola Tesla example, he had a lot of those drawings that he made for inventions that like ended up being saved and used for like a later time. So who knows, maybe this is going to be you guys as well. That's the thing with Mercury in the 11th house, highly psychic, very much ahead of your time. It depends on the rest of your chart to see how this is going to manifest. But you guys could be interested in things like innovation, trend setting. It could be things like technology. It could be things like, again, connecting large groups of people together through your ideas and things like this, right? Maybe communicating on the internet, because Mercury in the 11th house could also have a large following, okay? Because again, you're communicating your ideas through your speech. It can be things like humanitarian issues. You guys are very passionate about things like this. You guys could be activists, again, speaking in front of that crowd on a microphone. So who knows? It can manifest a lot of different ways. These are just a few examples of how this energy can manifest. But that's really what it is when you have Mercury in the 11th house. Highly, highly intelligent, highly psychic, highly ahead of your time. So I'm going to wrap up this video here. I do hope you guys did enjoy my video on Mercury in the 11th house. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.